Hey guys, welcome back to this week's poll here on Comic Relief Cast, where every week we give you guys new early reviews of comic books coming out this week. I'm your host, Jake.
And I'm Josh. Hey Jake, got a quick question for you.
What's that?
Did you vote?
Yes, I did, actually. Bitch. All right, and guys, you've clicked on the Marvel segment, and because there's not a whole lot of big titles coming out from Marvel, unlike last week where they do have a few more actual ongoing titles coming out this week, we're just going to go over some of the bigger stuff and a few of the indie things. So, this week, Infinity Wars, number 5,
Boom.
Wrong Earth, number 3,
Damn.
Immortal Hulk, number 8,
Come
Trump's
dumpster.
Titans, right in time for the midterm elections,
In your
Space
fucking
Force,
ear.
number 1, United States versus Murder Inc., number 3,
Twaskoller.
Death of the Inhumans, number 5,
Delicious.
Spidergeddon, number 3, and Marvel Knights,
Lick
number
your mom's butthole.
1. Dude, really?
Yep.
Oh, I'm not even deleting this one. We're just gonna trudge on. All right, starting off with Infinity Wars number 5 from Jerry Duggan and Mike Deodato. Josh, what did you think of the 5th issue?
I loved it. It was great. The artwork was amazing, as always. And one thing that we've always mentioned is Deodato tries to get this get a little fancy with his panel work, and he didn't do it in this, and that definitely shows and definitely makes it more appealing to the eyes. I mean, he does it a couple of times, but not too much like he normally does.
Yeah.
To the point where you point it out and remember it. The storyline is pretty fun. There's a lot of things right when you think that you kind of get the grasp and you see where this is going to end, then they throw a wrench in that, and then you don't know. You're like, okay, now I'm kind of intrigued.
Yeah, I gotta say, I'm loving this ragtag team of Scott Lang, Ant-Man, Hulk, Emma Frost, Kang, Ms. Marvel, and Loki. It's just a team that you would, under no other circumstances do you ever really see together, working together, but in order to defeat Gamora, the new Requiem, they got to pull their resources, and Loki's after some Infinity Gems to basically defeat Requiem, but in Loki fashion, he's always playing a different angle that these guys can't quite see. Really dug that, but
he's the master of trickery.
Yeah, he even calls himself...
He's the god of mischief.
He's the god of lies. He even says it in his book. But no, you're right. Mike Deodato is doing really fantastic work in here. I'm a huge fan of his, but he can be hit and miss at times. I really like the way he's laid out these panels in this book. It makes it a lot easier to read. It doesn't really interrupt your pacing. But dude, I gotta say, this issue is brutal. And they're really pulling out all the stops, especially all the different versions of Kang. I love seeing Iron Lad in there. Hulk versus Gamora. Holy shit.
That was pretty intense.
That was badass. There's a lot to like about this book. I know it's not everyone's favorite thing, and I think a lot of it is just it's coinciding with the release of the Infinity War movie, and so everyone thinks it's kind of a cash grab, which it could possibly be, but in its own right, I think this book is actually standing pretty well on its own, and I'm having a lot of fun reading it.
Oh yeah, there's not really even that much of a dull moment. Even the tie-ins are pretty good. I mean, there's a couple of them that fall by the wayside, but there's a few of them that are really sticking out, like Soldier Supreme. And this book is, the ending is very intriguing.
Yeah, the
ending is very intriguing.
Yeah, we talked about it a little off air, and we think it's actually kind of the opposite of an amalgam. It's like the splitting of two different characters that resided in one.
Yeah.
So I think that's an interesting angle to be playing at, but I don't know, I'm just really digging this book, and I also like that there are a couple more Infinity Warps that are in this book that haven't gotten their own spin-off title yet that I'm actually looking forward to seeing more of. You said they were in Sleepwalker.
Some of them were shown cameoed appearances in the Sleepwalker Infinity War tie-ins. I haven't read the second one yet, but the first one they show in there, and there's a couple of them that aren't in them yet, but they're either their own spin-off title or they are going to be part of the Infinity Warps.
Right, and I'm actually looking forward to a couple of those. So with that, Josh, unveil our new rating for this week's episode. What would you give it?
I'm going to give this a solid 4 groin bombs.
Okay, I'm going to go 3.4 groin bombs.
Yeah. And
we got groin bombs from a very special issue this week, which we can talk about in a little bit. Moving on to The Wrong Earth, issue number 3. It's by it's from Ahoy Comics from Payer and Eigel. And we covered issue 1, but we didn't get issue 2 in time for us to be able to really go over it. But this is basically, what if you had Adam West Batman, and he switched Earths with basically like Christopher Nolan's Batman and vice versa. Christopher Nolan's Batman goes to like an Adam West world. And this is a very interesting look at that idea, and I'm having a blast reading this series.
Yeah, it is a very fun book, especially, me and Jake don't normally just randomly pick up some indie title.
Ahoy?
Yep. Ahoy Comics is actually a very new publisher.
Yeah, it's very brand new.
Wrong Earth number 1 was their first title, and the cover just attracted to us, and it's been a good series. If you haven't read it yet, I definitely highly recommend trying to find it and picking it up.
Yeah, this is one of those books that's probably flying under a lot of people's radar, so you could possibly still find it on the shelves at certain comic shops. I would say this is something I would go out of my way to try and find.
Yeah.
I think it's a really fun read. It's not like a groundbreaking read, but it's just different enough and familiar enough to really bring you in as a reader, so you identify those tropes that you're used to, and then you see them turn on their ear. It's getting a little bit of a Mark Millar vibe to it.
Yeah, definitely.
But I'm really, really digging it.
I definitely highly suggest this book to any readers who really like Batman, or if they really like the Marvel What If storylines, or just any kind of titles that kind of take a psychological look at superheroes.
And it's deconstructionist
too.
Yeah,
deconstruction it, and just kind of taking a deeper look into what would happen if blank hero was in a blank kind of situation.
Right. So I'm liking it. The main character's name is Dragonfly, or Dragonfly Man. He has his sidekick named Stinger, and that's about all I want to tell you. There are some Joker, Harley Quinn type characters in this, but again, it's really played for something that feels original, but it's original because it's playing off of what your established ideas of those characters already are.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give this issue in particular, I'm going to give it 3.6 groin bombs.
I'm actually just a little bit above you, 3.75 groin bombs.
All right, moving on to the Immortal Hulk number 8 by Al Ewing and Joe Bennett. Man, talk about a series that just continues to get better and better. Yeah, it had a couple issues that kind of lagged, but this is one of the best things out of Marvel right now. It is really a damn shame that a personal friend of ours has decided to drop this title before he was
I like
able
how you say personal friends, not an ex-co-host of ours that used to be on here a
Dallas.
lot. Yeah,
he
Dallas.
decided to drop this title after only reading, I think, the first, second, or 2 or 3 issues.
He got about 4 issues in.
I don't think he hit 4.
Reviewed 3 with us.
I think that was the last issue you read. And so then he decided to drop this title, and as a guy who loves horror, he has picked the wrong title to cut off his pull list. This thing is great. I'm loving this series.
Nailing him right now.
Oh, fuck him. But no, this issue in particular is maybe one of the best issues of the entire run, only because the imagery is grotesque. It takes you back. It's I don't know. I really can't find the words to describe it. It's eerie. It's gross. It's dark. It's otherworldly. It's very supernatural. I don't know, but it's one of the coolest things I've read in a long, long time.
This is Marvel actually doing something that they haven't really been doing a whole lot of, and that's taking a risk. They found their little their comfy pillow.
They found their niche,
which is make everything superhero related. And they took the Hulk and then they take it back down to their roots, where they're doing like an old school horror comic. And it feels like an old school horror comic. This isn't a superhero comic of the Hulk. This is a monster story, and it's very supernatural, very eerie. The imaging in it is very. I keep imaging. It's very grotesque. Yeah. It's very grotesque, and it's really cool. There's new aspects of the Hulk that we find out in this book that we've never knew was a possible thing.
You've always maybe kind of wondered in the back of your head, how does he regenerate? How does he heal himself? I mean, the Hulk basically can't get hurt, and they really, even this entire issue is really kind of dedicated to figuring out the rules of the way the biology of Hulk works. And this has one of the best splash pages I have ever seen in Marvel comic books. If you guys are going a little bit past the halfway point in this book, right past the staples, this splash page is one of the coolest fucking things I have ever seen.
It is cool.
This is by far one of my favorite books out of Marvel, and probably my favorite read of this week. I'm going to go ahead and give this one 4.8 groin bombs. I loved every minute of this issue. If I could read it over again for the first time, I would.
I'm going a little below you, which is a 4.45.
Okay.
Groin bombs.
Yeah, that works, man.
It is one of my favorite issues. I love the horror aspect of it. It is definitely. This is what Marvel should be trying to focus more on.
Yeah, if you're a Marvel collector and you get Marvel titles regularly and you're not picking up the Immortal Hulk, do yourself a solid. Find issue 1, get all the missing issues, get this series. If you have to wait for it in trade, wait for it in trade, but this is an absolute must-read from Marvel.
If you're a DC fanboy and you normally don't read Marvel, this would be a good transition kind of thing, because this is one thing that DC has never really stopped kind of doing these horror-esque comics that weren't really capes and cow, felt very capes and cow. And this would be a good transition. If you wanted to read something that was similar to a DC comic, there you go.
Yeah,
Immortal
and
Hulk.
Speaking of transitions, Josh read Spidergeddon issue number 3 by Christos Gage and Dan Slott and a couple other people. I myself have just stopped reading Spidergeddon altogether. But Josh, how do you feel about Spidergeddon number 3?
Spidergeddon number 3. It's a bland issue. It's doesn't really have a whole lot going for it. You almost feel like this could have been a small little story in issue 2. And then you would have been fine. It was definitely more of a filler issue of the event, which is kind of disappointing because you're 3 issues in and you really kind of want this to pick up. There is little things in here that does move the story along, but at the same time, you just kind of go, why couldn't they just shorten this up and put it into like the end of one of the other books? They're definitely flooding the market with Spidergeddon stuff, and as a person who enjoyed Spider-Verse, this is, which Miles Morales says it the best. It's not quite as organized as the last time. Yeah. So I mean, other than that, I mean, I still kind of enjoyed the book. I enjoy reading these different versions of Spider-Man and seeing these different aspects. I know Jake does not, but I mean, I do think it's a good pick. It's not my favorite read by far, but it's also not my favorite issue of Spidergeddon. I'm gonna give it like 2.75 groin bombs.
All right, yeah, I can't do Spidergeddon anymore, man. It's just every time I read more and more, I just get pissed off about it.
Yeah,
because I'm finally understanding the complaints.
You only read one of the books, though.
I'm understanding the complaints, though. I used to just write it off as whatever, fanboys bitching, but now I get it. Like, you're taking away everything that's unique about Spider-Man, and there's just too much. And so I'm sticking with Amazing Spider-Man. That's my Spider-Man. So moving on to Trump's Titans #1 Space Force, which again, just in time for the midterm election. It is the 6th today, so today should be the last time you guys have the chance to vote. Hopefully you did. You went out there and did your duty. But Trump's Titans Space Force #1. I mean, it's a joke book. It's a joke comic book. It's satirical. It's a parody of the Trump administration and all of his people like Jared Kushner, Ivanka Trump, Mike Pence, all those guys that are in the White House. And it's just poking fun at them. And if you are somebody who thinks it's fun to laugh at this current administration, this is a great book to pick up. It's not something that's a great reading by any means, but it's not setting out to be something that's groundbreaking. It's just setting out to be something that's funny. So, Trump saying he's going to do a Space Force like the Air Force and the Navy and all that stuff. This is that, but it's taken it to a ridiculous length with, an entire world of reptiles, and then Dracula is the king of the reptiles over there, and Trump goes over there, defeats Dracula, and he becomes the king of, or the ruler of that world, and he's like, I can't really rule the United States and this planet, so he clones himself, and now he's ruling both, and there's talk of aliens, which is supposed to be illegal immigration kind of thing. It's hitting all the hot topic buttons, it's poking fun, it's making light of the situation. It's a lot of fun to read. It makes Donald Trump look goofy. I love it. So for Trump's Titans, based on the other things that I've read of it, I'm going to go ahead and give this one a 3.0. Groin bombs, which is actually where we got the groin bombs grading scale, was this issue. I had fun. It's not something that I would go, you need this in your collection, but if you want something that just makes comic books what comic books are, funny books, there you go. This is exactly that. It's topical, it's politically driven, it's fun, short read, but it is $4.99, which makes it a little bit more of a deterrent.
Yeah. Do you think that with the other Trump Titans, Jake normally sends them off to his dad? Do you think you're going to send this one off to your dad?
I'll probably end up sending this one off to my dad. All right, moving on to United States versus Murder, Inc. by Bendis and Oeming. It's issue number 3. And this is apparently, Josh, this is news to me. You said there was a United States of Murder, Inc., which is something I've never read. And now you're telling me that that was probably a good read or good knowledge to have going into this book.
Yeah, it's kind of, it was a little disappointing because the one thing I really enjoyed about Jinx World was a lot of the titles felt like you didn't have to do any present reading, any reading that was of stuff of any of these titles that had been released through Icon or Image or anything like that. This one, I feel like if you did read that, you would probably have a little bit more information. But the main reason why we're bringing this up is when you first start reading this issue, it doesn't follow the same pattern that the other 2 issues were going. And so it gets very confusing at times. And until you get to the end, then it kind of makes sense. But it's kind of sad that it does that because, I mean, this is one of my favorite titles. I know it's probably like your... It's not your favorite.
It wasn't my favorite, but I definitely like it. It's not as bad as Pearl, in my opinion, but yeah. I like Scarlet and Cover more.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this series, opening up this book until about 75% of the way through, I felt super lost. I'm like, what is going on? There's a lot of people introduced, a lot of things being introduced that I'm like, I don't recall this at all in the first 2 issues. Hopefully this all starts to make sense. And it does kind of there towards the end, but by then I just go...
You're already tapped out.
Well, you're tapped out in the sense that you're not really retaining the information because it's just kind of a cognitive dissonance thing where you just can't assimilate that information to anything that you already have. Like there's no baseline of information for me. So it was a little tough to read, but... And I don't want to have to go back and reread anything from before either. So I don't know how I feel about this issue, and I can feel Bendis maybe feeling a little tired writing at least 6 different titles right now.
Yeah, well the good news is with these Jinx worlds, except for this one, I think majority of them are almost about, if not halfway, almost done because they're all only supposed to be like I think like 5 to 6 issues. Yeah. So maybe he'll start slowing down a bit, even though he is going to be also front-running the new DC imprint.
Young Justice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. This one is not really a win in my opinion. This one made it a little tougher to get behind some of this Jinx World stuff. Just a lot of concepts introduced with no prior knowledge. So I'm going to go ahead and give this one 1.8 groin bombs as a single issue.
Yeah, I'm going to go up a little bit higher. I'm going to go to a 2.75 groin bombs. It's good. I have a different outlook on this because I read some of the other stuff before. I've read a lot of the other Jinx World stuff, so I know a little bit more on this stuff. But I can understand where if you're a new reader, this makes no sense. Which, by the way, if you are somebody who picks these up, I would highly recommend seeing if your comic book shop has any more of the Jinx World samplers, because they did have the first issue of the United States of Murder, Inc. in there.
And we do have a couple of those if anybody is interested. All right, moving on to the finale of The Death of Inhumans by Donny Cates and Ariel Olivetti. And this is something I was telling you, Josh, right before we started recording, was that I think Donny Cates on these little miniseries, you cannot really take the first issue and go, this is going to be indicative of how this entire series is going to go, because this guy really hit his stride, I think, in issue 3 with this book, and it has been hard-hitting and great storytelling ever since. And this book did not disappoint. This is a great finale to the Inhumans storyline that he set up. Something I'd actually really like to see somebody do with the X-Men already.
Yeah, I feel like that's what could be said about most miniseries, though. I feel like you can't really judge a miniseries off of issue 1 or issue 2.
Well, usually the end of a first issue, there's like a hook that gets it.
Yeah.
And I mean, we'll talk more about Marvel Knights #1, but this one there wasn't really a hook in that first issue. It's just like you need to just stick with it.
Yeah, for me, I liked it ever since the first issue. I like it when somebody can take Black Bolt and make him seem like a badass, and that's exactly what they did.
Or make him more interesting, which is what I think Donny Cates succeeded at, was making Black Bolt a very interesting character.
When you read Death of Inhumans, you understand more, because a lot of people out there, they don't really care about Inhumans. Black Bolt's probably bottom on their list, and a lot of them probably wouldn't understand why Black Bolt would be considered a king. And this right here tells you exactly, this whole run has done nothing but show you why this man is a king. He can go through struggles, he's smart, he's strong, he's brutal. He'll take the chances that most people won't, even if the chances are not in his favor. And it's a great story, great storytelling. It has funny moments, it has serious moments, it has gruesome moments. It really is everything that you would want in a miniseries.
Yeah.
And it's great that the Inhumans actually does, they finally have a story that's good, because there for the longest time,
Marvel was trying so hard
to push Inhumans, and it just wasn't working, to the point that they even made an event with them going up against the X-Men, going against mutants. And that was horrible. I mean, forgettable. Like a lot of people don't even talk about it anymore. Yeah. They talk about Avengers vs. X-Men before they talk about that.
Right. No, this book, it's what I think is so great about it. It's family drama wrapped up in a lot of great trappings, But this book right here, what I really like about it is they're addressing the prophecy of why the Kree hate the Inhumans so much. They've been, that's something they've been talking about a long time in comic books. Why the Inhumans are almost this abomination on the Kree, because they were created as weapons of the Kree, and they kind of formed their own thing, and they became resistant to the Kree, and there's this prophecy that they would die by their own making, which they always fear was the Inhumans. This is that prophecy almost playing out to us in a sense, and I really, really like that. But the thing is, the gravity of the story is here. That's what I really like. It feels like there are stakes here. It feels like things have to be done. This is a huge turning point for the Inhumans lore, and I really love it. I think this is something that I could have used 5 or 6 more issues of something I wouldn't mind to be a 12-issue thing and make it this huge epic, you know. I'm glad they condensed it to 5 and they didn't overstay their welcome, but this is something I would love more of, and if they can continue to tell the Inhuman stories like this, I'm more than open to more Inhuman stories going on. But I would honestly love to see the X-Men kind of their entire world condensed like this. I know it wasn't a big thing when they did House of M. People were kind of pissed off that so many mutants lost their powers and stuff, but honestly, the X-Men have been back for about a year and a half prominently or so in the Marvel Universe, and I already feel like it's gotten out of hand with how many X titles are out there. So I wouldn't mind a treatment like this for the X-Men, but as an issue, I'm going to give this issue a solid 4 groin bombs, but as an entire thing, the Death of the Inhumans as a story, I'm going to say 4.5 groin bombs.
It's hilarious. I was actually thinking about this while we were reading it because I knew we were going to end up doing 2 ratings for this. I was actually right there with you. I'm giving this issue 4, but as a series, I'm giving it 4.5 groin bombs. It is a great miniseries. If you haven't picked it up in single issues, I highly suggest picking it up when it comes out in trade.
Yeah, and I will say, I want to say this, that there will be people out there who read this and go, what are you guys talking about? You know, we don't even know what happened with Vox and all that stuff. That's not resolved yet. I fully expect there will be something here in the future at some point that's going to explain kind of the fallout of everything that's happening here, but I don't think this is the last of the Inhumans, and I look forward to more. Yeah. And that's the first time I can ever honestly say I look forward to more Inhumans.
So I was thinking the same thing when I was reading it.
All right, moving on to the big issue of the week, Marvel Knights #1 from Donny Cates and, Foreman's, I can't remember Foreman's first name.
Eric?
That's not Eric.
Red?
It's Red Foreman. Yeah. Okay, so guys, what this is, I mean, the best way to explain this, I don't want to get spoilery, but the best thing I can say is this is the House of M. This is almost like House of M. And it's a weird way to, it's hard to explain. I don't want to spoil anything, but it's like House of M. A lot of these characters don't know who they are, what powers they have, you know, what function, they don't know their history, things like that. There's a lot of stuff going on here in this book, but this issue is very focused on Daredevil, very hyper focused on Daredevil, and you know, him not remembering who he is, and he's trying to get in contact with other people in his life. But this book was one of those things that I'm so happy to say I could not put down. I could not look away. This is not something that I was bored reading. It was a page turner. I had to get to the end. I had to figure out where this was going. And holy shit, by the end, I did not see that last page coming, and it has me extremely excited.
Extremely excited for you. I'm pretty excited about it too. This was a very fun issue. It does kind of, the whole time that you're reading it, you do kind of feel a little confused on what's exactly going on, especially if you're reading the main Daredevil storyline. But you know that there's a twist. There's something that's going to end up coming. It's a setup issue. It's kind of like what Jake was saying with Donny Cates. A lot of times you got to give it one issue to kind of help set up the story. Then your second or third is going to be the thing that hooks you. This one definitely does hook you towards the end.
This one has the hook. This has got 2 of them for me. It's the why don't anybody remember who they are? Why does nobody remember who they are? Sorry. And then, of course, the end. That end is a huge hook, but I also couldn't stop reading because I'm like, why doesn't Daredevil know who he is? Why do these other characters, are they starting to come to, but they still don't have all their answers? I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, it's definitely a good issue. Donny Cates does another great job on another title. It's getting to the point where I'm kind of going, I don't know if there's any characters that Donny Cates can't write for.
Well, this is the thing too. It looks like, as you were talking about, Marvel taking more chances. This is not a conventional story. This is not something I see Marvel just willy-nilly throwing out there, you know, going, this is just kind of our flavor of the month. This is something that is very much not in the realm of their status quo, and I'm happy about that. And I also do want to say, if you guys can get that Carrie Andrews variant, that thing is awesome. I'm going to be picking up all those Carrie Andrews variants that are all connecting variants. Gorgeous covers. But, I mean, as a Marvel fan, I don't know what this book doesn't have for you. I think there's something in here for everybody to like.
Yeah, there's a good amount of humor. There's a mystery. It seems like it's going to be another dark kind of issue like Marvel's Knights used to be. It seems like they're definitely taking a chance, which is another thing that we like what we mentioned with Immortal Hulk, and like Jake mentioned already. It's something that Marvel hasn't really been doing. I mean, they've been taking these small little chances here and there, but they're still, you know, releasing #1s like crazy and stuff like that. But they have Donny Cates in their bullpen of writers right now, and they're definitely using him, which is kind of making me a little scared because I feel like you need to let the guy kind of breathe a little bit. But as he said on Twitter, like, he's only writing a few issues at a time. It's not really like he's not even feeling like he's writing all that much. But I mean, it's great, and it seems like it's going to be a very intriguing story.
Yeah, and the other thing too is I think there's a lot of things in here for Marvel fans who are maybe not fans of certain Marvel Knights characters. There's a lot of promises on this, and honestly, when I first looked at the main cover, you guys can see up there on the screen, I didn't really think too much about it. I saw a couple of these characters, but after having read this book and seeing some of the promises that might come to fruition, I look at this cover and it means something completely different to me now, and I think that is really cool.
Yeah, it makes me wonder if, like, when we were looking at when we were looking at our orders and we saw this cover and everybody was seeing this cover and they were posting this cover everywhere, that if I ever noticed if this, like, they edited it at all. But now I'm looking at it and I'm kind of going, how did I miss some of this stuff that's in this?
I noticed a couple
cover?
of these characters going, okay, that's interesting, but now after having read the issue, I go, that is very interesting. So with that, guys, I would say Marvel Knights for $4.99. It's an issue 1. It's not a bad pickup. It's worth your money, and this is definitely a series that shows a lot of promise. This is something I would put aside from Immortal Hulk. This is something I would put at the top of my list to get this week. Depending on what your pull list looks like, but this is definitely something I would be going out of my way to make sure I got a copy of. It seems like a very exciting series coming out of Marvel, and I'm going to give this issue 4.2 groin bombs.
I'm a little below you. I'm at 4 groin bombs.
Well, that's because the very end has me very excited.
I know the very end got you excited.
All right, guys. Well, that is all we've got for you this week on the Marvel and Indie stuff. Be sure to look out for the DC episode that should be up on the channel here soon, or is already up. Again, we always do early comic reviews every Tuesday night, so thank you so much for listening. Please hit that thumbs up button if you like this. Hit that thumbs down button if you disagreed. Share it with your friends. Comment below. Let us know your thoughts on any of these books. If you've read them, if you plan to pick them up, have we swayed you one way or the other? And of course, if you're not a subscriber already, hit that subscribe button, and we will see you next time. Take care.
Lick your dad's butthole.